Tetris sound in the background here. Here we go. All right, shalom, everyone. I'm Brother Doug, and we are back today. We are the Weekend by Yahuwah Assembly in Yahuwah Almighty Yahushua Messiah. Today we got Brother Dennis, Brother Yahusha, Sister Sharon, my mom, Sister Marissa. I'm getting tongue-tied here. So we're doing a 1 Kings 15 to 17 study. And let me just get the screen ready here. Get Dennis's name up there as well. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to try to do is get the word software up. I want to get my microphone, Mom, so I might have you read the first chapter here.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Let's see here. 1 Kings 15. All right, 1 Kings chapter 15. Go ahead, Mom, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Abijah, king of Yehuda. In the 18th year of the reign of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, Abijah became king of Yehuda, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 years. His mother's name...
Yours says Abijah?
Well, that's how I'm pronouncing it.
Okay, no,
Abijah or Abijah.
I'm just noticing there's an M.
You know what? I have a footnote that says that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says in the Septuagint, as well as some other Hebrew manuscripts, it says Abiyam. Yeah, that's what it says down there.
The ESV must use the Dead Sea Scrolls then. Because they have a Biyam. Okay.
I can say it like that.
No, it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's not about pronunciation. I was just noticing.
Yeah, that had a different letter. Okay.
Hallelujah scripture also says Abiyam.
Okay.
They must have went by the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Vulgate has it too as a BM. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. His mother's name was Ma'akah, daughter of Abishalom, which I do have a note that says could also be Absalom. Okay. He committed all the sins his father had done before him. His heart was not fully devoted to Yahuwah his Eluah as the heart of David his forefather had been. Nevertheless, for David's sake, Yahuwah his Eluah gave him a lamp in Jerusalem by raising up a son to succeed him and by making Jerusalem strong. For David had done what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah and had not failed to keep any of Yahuwah's commandments all the days of his life, except in the case of Uriah the Hittite. There was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam throughout Abiyam's lifetime. As for the other events of Abiyam's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Yehuda? There was war between Abiyam and Jeroboam, and Abiyam rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, and Asa, his son, succeeded him as king. In the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Yashrael, Asa became king of Yehuda, and he reigned in Jerusalem 41 years. His grandmother's name was Ma'akah, daughter of Abishalom. Asa did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, as his father David had done. He expelled the male shrine prostitutes from the land and got rid of all the idols his fathers had made. He even deposed his grandmother, Ma'akah, from her position as queen mother because she had made a repulsive Asherah pole. Asa cut the pole down and burned it in the Kidron Valley. Although he did not fully committed, here we are. Asa's heart was, let me back it up. Although he did not remove the high places, Asa's heart was fully committed to Yahuwah all his life. He brought into the temple of Yahuwah the silver and gold and the articles that he and his father had dedicated. There was war between.
Did we read this?
I
last
thought
week?
we did. I seriously, because we went over
Hold
the whole
on.
thing about the Hittite.
No,
About
yeah.
Uriah the Hittite.
I'm remembering not
This
not
happens to
chapter
us a
verse
lot.
5. No, it's because I keep messing up with the titles on these videos.
Right.
That's what's going on. I'm going by the titles of each study we do. Yeah, Doug, come on, get it together here. Jeez. All right. Yeah, 16 to 18. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
All right, let's jump to 16 then. If we did this last week.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
So 16 to 18.
All right.
Are
Then-
you sure? Okay.
Yeah. Well, verse 5 was kind of like
Yeah,
knock on
I
my head
remember
there.
that. I remember
So-
discussing it. Yeah.
Let me while you do that, Mom. I'm gonna try to fix
Want me to read?
the numbering of the titles on these videos. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. The word of Yahuwah came to Yehu, son of Hanami, against Batsha. I lifted you up from the dust.
Go ahead, brother Yahusha. I saw your hands up. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if you're 100% sure on that, because I see the old video. I see 2 weeks ago it's 12 to 14. I see last week it's 15 to 17.
Oh.
Oh, jeez. We did. I didn't even realize we were that.
Well, we
We
hadn't
were-
got into these other.
I didn't realize we went that far already. Okay.
So we're at 18. 18 is where
Let
we're
me see here. Let me just check this real quick. So it's from. Oh yeah, I see here from June 8th. Yeah. Okay. So 18 and 20. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's just see here. Let me just make sure 18's not too long for you. Let me see.
No,
here.
it isn't. It's fine.
All right. You sure? All
Yeah,
right.
I'm positive. No problem. Okay, here we go. After a long time, in the 3rd year, the word of Yahuwah came to Elijah. Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land. So Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab had summoned Obadiah, who was in charge of his palace. Obadiah was a devout believer in Yahuwah, while Jezebel was killing off Yahuwah's prophets. Obadiah had taken 100 prophets and hidden them in 2 caves, 50 in each, and had supplied them with food and water. Ahab had said to Obadiah, go through the land to all the springs and valleys. Maybe we can find some grass to keep the horses and mules alive, so we will not have to kill any of our animals. So they divided the land they were to cover, Ahab going in one direction and Obadiah in another. As Obadiah was walking along, Elijah met him. Obadiah recognized him, bowed down to the ground, and said, is it really you, my master, Elijah? Yes, he replied. Go tell your master Elijah is here. What have I done wrong? Asked Obadiah, that you are handing your servant over to Ahab to be put to death. As surely as Yahuwah, your Eluah, lives, there is not a nation or kingdom where my master has not sent someone to look for you. And whenever a nation or kingdom claimed you were not there, he made them swear they could not find you. But now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah is here. I don't know where the spirit of Yahuwah may carry you when I leave you. If I go and tell Ahab and he doesn't find you, he will kill me. Yet I, your servant, have worshipped Yahuwah since my youth. Haven't you heard, my master, what I did while Jezebel was killing the prophets of Yahuwah? I hid 100 of Yahuwah's prophets in 2 caves. 50 in each, and supplied them with food and water. And now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah is here, he will kill me. Elijah said, as Yahuwah Almighty lives, whom I serve, I will certainly present myself to Ahab today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. When he saw Elijah, he said to him, is that you, you troubler of Yashrael? I have not made trouble for Yashrael, Elijah replied, but you and your father's family have. You have abandoned Yahuwah's commands and have followed the Baals. Now summon the people from all over Yashrael to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent word throughout all Yashrael and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. Elijah went before the people and said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If Yahuwah is Eluah, follow him. But if Baal is Eluah, follow him. But the people said nothing. Then Elijah said to them, I am the only one of Yahuwah's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us, let them choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your mighty one, and I will call on the name of Yahuwah, the Eluah, who answers by fire. He is Yahuwah. Then all the people said, what you say is good. Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose one of the bulls and prepare it. First, since there are so many of you, call on the name of your Elohim, but do not light the fire. So they took the bull given them and prepared it. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. O Baal, answer us, they shouted, but there was no response. No one answered, and they danced around the altar they had made. At noon, Elijah began to taunt them. Shout louder, he said. Surely he is a mighty one. Perhaps he is in deep thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened. So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. Midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesying until the time of the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered. No one paid any attention. Then Elijah said to all the people, come here to me. They came to him, and he repaired the altar of Yahuwah, which was in ruins. Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, to whom the word of Yahuwah had come, saying, your name shall be Yashrael. With the stones he built an altar in the name of Yahuwah, and he dug a trench around it large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. Then he said to them, fill 4 large jars with water and pour it on the offering and on the wood. Do it again, he said, and they did it again. Do it a 3rd time, he ordered, and they did it the 3rd time. The water ran down around the altar and even killed the trench. At the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, O Yahuwah, Eluah of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yashrael, let it be known today that you are Eluah in Yashrael, and that I am your servant. and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, O Yahuwah, answer me, so these people will know that you, O Yahuwah, are Alua, and that you are turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of Yahuwah fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. When all the people saw this, they fell prostrate, and cried, Yahuwah, he is Alua. Yahuwah, he is Alua. Then Elijah commanded them, seize the prophets of Baal, don't let anyone get away. They seized them, and Elijah had them brought down to the Kishon Valley and slaughtered there. And Elijah said to Ahab, go eat and drink, for there is the sound of a heavy rain. So Ahab went off, he ate and drank, but Elijah climbed to the top of Carmel, bent down to the ground, and put his face between his knees. Go and look toward the sea, he said. He told his servant, and he went up and looked. There is nothing there, he said. 7 times Elijah said, go back. The 7th time the servant reported, a cloud as small as a man's hand is rising from the sea. So Elijah said, go and tell Ahab, hitch up your chariot and go down before the rain stops you. Meanwhile, the sky grew black with clouds, the wind rose, a heavy rain came on, and Ahab rose off to Jezreel. The power of Yahuwah came upon Elijah, and bucking his cloak into his belt, he ran ahead of Ahab all the way to Jezreel. Okay.
When you go to where is it? Was I just there? Maybe I was in here. Okay, so when you go to verse 27, it says either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey. Word for pursuing is kind of to say he is, I guess another translation, I don't know, just kind of redundant. And so when you like actually look at that word there for he is pursuing, 87873, it's sieg, which means dross. And then if you go into the ancient Hebrew lexicon, it says dross, the impurities as scum or dregs that are formed on the surface of molten metals, right? And then you could also go into the Strong's definition, because the BDB definition is a moving away or dross, and then the Strong's gives a withdrawal into a private place. So you had these definitions, a removal of dross or scum, a withdrawal into a private place. So it kind of sounds like to me, Eliyahu is saying perhaps he's in the bathroom.
Yeah, right. I've always found it so funny. So funny.
What?
When Elijah starts mocking them, saying, perhaps he is asleep, perhaps he went on a trip,
Yeah, like what I was saying, Doug, is that when you start looking into the Hebrew for one of the things where it says perhaps he is moving away, or perhaps he is away or on business, I guess some would translate. When you actually look in the Hebrew and in the ancient Hebrew, it actually seems like it's saying he's in the bathroom.
He's in the bathroom.
He's relieving himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole thing is funny.
That's all right, honey. We can take it for right now. Um, trying to
Definitely
think what
shows
else.
that Abba doesn't that there's nothing wrong with mocking.
That's right. That's right. I've always enjoyed it when we are given a glimpse of one of the prophets, their personality. We have a tendency of, thinking of them as so set apart and everything like that. And then we see, a really fun part of them. I also remember in Daniel, the first time I read Bell and the Dragon, and you could see him like basically mocking them when they were trying to prove to him that Dagon had come into the temple and eaten the little snacks that they had left for him, and Daniel proved to them that it was not him, and it was not Dagon, and he's kind of mocking them a little bit too. So I love when you can see a side of one of the servants like that. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, or when Abraham went into terrorist room where he made all those idols, he destroyed them, put the axe in the big idol's hand, said he did it.
Welcome, brother. Nice to hear your voice. It's great. Shabbat shalom. Absolutely.
No, thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Oh my, yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else going on here.
Oh. Oh. Now, even though it was in the wrong chapter at first, so there was a difference in the spelling of that Abia guy.
Oh yeah, Abiyam. Yeah,
I want to write that down.
yeah.
Even though that was not the chapter we're supposed to be reading today, that was
No, it's
interesting.
good to know. Yeah. Yeah, like that.
Pretty interesting that the ESV does that sometimes. They'll go to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Let's see here. Let's see here. First Kings 15:1. Vulgate, Dead Sea Scrolls, and LXX say a B-Yam. Interesting. And then the Mizrahi text, I guess, says a B-Yah or B-Yahoo. All right. Well, let's see here. Oh, this is a story. Ahab, huh?
Yeah, and his lovely wife. Yeah. Yeah. I don't mean to back up to something from that we previously read just earlier today when we were also in the wrong chapter, but that lady Maaka, the mother of who was it now? I can't even remember who it was. But the point I wanted to make is that he was strong enough to out his own mother. And I was thinking, you go ahead, man. If that's not what Yahusha was talking about mother against daughter and this and that, I mean, that's a prime example of that right there. And I was just wanting to say, you go ahead, man. That's great. So anyway, forgot to say something, but
So this is interesting. It looks like Obadiah the prophet would have been around this time because in verse 3 it says, Ahab called Obadiah, who was over the household. Now Obadiah greatly feared Yahuwah. So, yeah, I think that's Obadiah the prophet, if I'm not mistaken. So that would have put him somewhere around, 900 or 1000 BC?
think so. Obadiah?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least that, Doug, because no, I'm getting confused. No, it's probably about 1,000.
Yeah.
Because if we're after,
Yeah, we're after.
they
we're after
think
Solomon.
that Solomon probably
Solomon's dead at this point.
930 BC. Solomon
Solomon would have been at least a century before this
Yes.
narrative here.
Yes,
So
that's right.
I'm thinking like 950 BC would be
Mhm.
Obadiah.
Mm-hmm.
Obadiah, the prophet.
Oh.
So that's kind of interesting. That means that Obadiah would take place, the book of Obadiah would probably take place around this time,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of puts a lot of perspective into what he's writing about Edom in his book. It's kind of interesting. I wonder what Edom was doing around this time. So that's kind of interesting. If that's the same Obadiah. Yeah. Yeah, so Obadiah was kind of like almost like the Underground Railroad, what he was doing. He was taking 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave and fed them with bread and water. So similar to how the Atlantic slave trade, you had people coming over here and certain people were hiding them. It's pretty interesting. Tense. Now this is interesting. Verse 5, the LXX has tense. What I noticed is it seems that's lacking in the Masoretic. I don't know. Maybe it's the next verse or something. Oh, go ahead, brother. Thanks, Ron.
No problem.
I think it's interesting that we're just talking about Yahuwah's drawing a line between, are you going to serve Baal or are you going to serve Yahuwah? And this is
Yeah.
literally
Mom.
the epitome of that,
Yeah. Let's see here. So I was also looking at, let's see here. Obadiah went in another direction himself. Yeah, definitely agree. Definitely agree that this is an interesting chapter for today. Alex X tense. So let's see. Just want to write all these notes down here for a future First King study. Okay, so where did I put it? I swear I wrote this down. That's crazy, man. Anyway, I'll rewrite it then. Oh, here we go. First Kings 15:1. LXX, Vulgate, Dead Sea Scrolls, BM. Text B. Okay, let's see here. So, so that's interesting because that means Elijah was a contemporary of Obadiah. And it's weird. Let's just have fun here. Where do they usually put Obadiah in their little canons here? Interesting. They put him way late. Holy moly.
Mm-hmm.
They put him like after Jeremiah.
Oh yeah, he's in with all the smaller prophets. Yeah.
They put him right before Jonah, which is very weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are you even sure that this is the same Obadiah?
Let me check.
Yeah, that's a good
Let me
point.
look that up. Was Obadiah a Contemporary of Elijah.
Yeah, that would be a good point.
Because if that's the case, man, they got the orders of this canon really screwed up.
Because I think
Yeah.
Obadiah was written either around the time of the siege or after the siege with
Mhm.
Nebuchadnezzar. So to me,
Yeah,
that
I
would
think you're
seem
right.
like that's way later on.
Yeah, I think he's right about that.
Ooh, there's contesting views. Earlier period would place Obadiah as a contemporary of the prophet Elijah. Later date would place Obadiah as a contemporary of Jeremiah. So it seems like even scholars are.
Are debating over it.
Yeah. This could be a study of itself, man.
Yes, it could.
This would be very interesting.
That would be a very interesting study. Yeah.
I guess the only way to find out really is to match his book with other prophets' books and figure out the events that are happening in his one chapter book, where that would when that would happen. A lot of it is like judgment on Edom. When does Edom really start stabbing Israel in the back? I'm trying to remember when they really start. 66 is just a people. Oh, interesting. Yeah, but it seems like it's contested. So the dating of Obadiah, this is interesting. It seems like the general consensus would be that it's closer to the time period of Elijah, the dating of his own book. 853 BC to 841 BC, that would definitely be way before the siege. If that's the case, that his book is that old. If that's the case, then I don't think he would have been around the time of the siege. So it depends where they have his book dated. These are all the instances they have here that he's referenced at: Isaiah 2, Jeremiah 46:10, Lamentations 2:22.
The Talmud identifies Obadiah as an Edomite.
That would make zero sense. He's going to pronounce judgment against his own people.
Hey, it's happened before. Yashral is pronouncing judgment against Yashral all the time.
Let me see here. There, it should tell you who his father is in Scripture. Obadiah, Hilkiah, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll look up what ethnicity Hilkiah was. Hilkiah, I'm assuming he's a priest. I seriously doubt. I don't know. That's a stretch from the Talmud. That's a stretch.
Are you sure? Because I'm looking at Obadiah 1, and it doesn't say anything about.
Huh. I could
Where
have
does it
swore
say that he's the son of Hilkiah?
Huh. Obadiah. I know there's one verse I saw somewhere where it says son of Hilkiah. I forget where exactly it is.
That's Second King. That's 8. That's literally what we were reading, but it's Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah.
Ah.
Or is that?
Yeah, there.
And
Let me see here.
or that's I thought we
I
were
could.
reading. Were we reading this? I'm sorry. No, this is we're in First Kings, but this is Second Kings 18 has Hilkiah. That's not what we were reading though.
Oh, okay. So Eliakim is the one. Okay. All right. Who is Obadiah's dad?
Well, apparently there's multiple people with there's multiple Hilkiahs, it seems, in scripture. Azariah, the son of Hilkiah.
Oh, really? Okay. So it seems like his father was Yael. Yael.
Yeah, but I don't see any Hilkiah with Obadiah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not Hilkiah. It's they're giving this guy Yael. I want to know more about him. Yael. What is he? What is he?
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't think
Yehoshaphat.
Obadiah lists him as the son of anybody.
Yehoshaphat.
I didn't see it either.
It's a single printer.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, because usually they do with the prophets,
Mm-hmm.
like Isaiah, son of Amos.
Yes, they do.
Right. Usually they do. It's weird that they don't.
I think there are times.
Son of Azel. Now that's a different Obadiah. That's a different one. He's a descendant of King Saul.
Right, but it doesn't say Caleb. It doesn't even mention that he's a Kenite. It doesn't trace his lineage back to Edom, which my opinion is because both Caleb and Yefuneh left Egypt together. Caleb left with his dad, so both are grafted in. I could be wrong, and it just doesn't list the rest of the lineage, but I think that there are times. I think I could be wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering. So I don't want to say for 100% certainty, but there's a possibility that it doesn't list the father's name when that person has been grafted in, but their direct ancestor or their father or mother wasn't grafted in, because they're no longer considered that lineage. They're now considered Yashraal. But if their parent was grafted in, then it lists them.
Eliphaz the Temanite. Really? They think he's a descendant of Eliphaz? I don't know. I don't remember Eliphaz having descendants or not. I would have to go back.
I think that if scripture itself just says Obadiah and it doesn't mention anyone, I don't know how anyone could come to a conclusion of whose son he would be.
Yeah. I just, Eliphaz the Temanite of itself, if I remember correctly, I don't think it mentions him having descendants or having a lineage that would go that long. I'm trying to remember Genesis, what it says about the Esau's descendants. Let me look at, just bear with us, audience here. I want to do this real quick and go to Job 40 here.
Are you still looking regarding Obadiah's lineage? Is that what you're looking for?
No, well, yeah, but I was mainly just looking at I mainly wanted to look at Eliphaz and their claim about Eliphaz to see if that's even probable.
What? Obadiah would be the son of?
He would be a descendant of Eliphaz, the Temanite.
I just don't see why how anyone could come to any conclusion, because scripture doesn't say. It just says Obadiah. It doesn't give you. So I'm not sure where anyone would be pulling that from.
Yeah. I'm just curious if Eliphaz even had descendants going that far down. Let me see here. I'm just looking at verse 17 of Job 42 here. So let's see. It goes with Job's descendants. All right, he begot a son. Yeah, it doesn't even mention Eliphaz and his descendants. So yeah, they would have nothing in scripture to go by. It mentions Esau, the descendants of Esau being his friends. It mentions that, Job had more sons after that time. Mentions that they were in the land of the Temanites, in the plain of Moab. That's about it. So yeah, it would be really hard for them to come to that, for me to agree with that conclusion that they're coming to. So yeah, it's just a mystery. I would just leave it as a mystery. It's just there. He's not mentioned. His dad's not mentioned. His mother's not mentioned. Possibly could have been a grafted in Gentile. Possibly. Really don't know. Possibly. It's very weird though for a prophet not to ever mention their lineage. Usually it does. Like even Elijah mentions his lineage.
Well,
So,
so like my friend says, when in doubt, throw it out.
yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It's scripture.
But yeah, so trying to see here if Jonah ever mentions his. Yeah, Jonah's mentioned, his dad's mentioned. Mike, yep, almost all the rest of the prophets are. That's like he's like the black sheep of the bunch. So that's kind of interesting. But
I
yeah,
also wonder though if there was originally more to Obadiah because it's like I think it's the one prophet that's only like a single chapter. It's just like a page.
yeah. Supposedly, I'm looking at the TSK here. I'm wondering if he's mentioned in other books. See, that's why I'm wondering if he is the same Obadiah in this First Kings chapter. If it is, then there could have been more to the story that maybe First or Second Kings talks about. If it's the same one, I think a lot of these prophets are mentioned in First and Second Kings, and that's probably why there's not a lot of elaboration of his background. But according to the source that I was looking at, they do put Obadiah's book pretty early. So it is possible he could have been a contemporary of Elijah here. It is possible it's talking about the same Obadiah. So I'm just looking at what else we have here. We have Yahuwah of Armies mentioned here. I don't know if you guys touched on that when I was away.
No.
Verse 15 here says here, as Yahuwah of Armies lives, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself to him today. So we have Yahusha being mentioned there. Let's see here. What else? We have Eliyahu and Ahab. Okay. So Israel was already following the Baals at this point.
Oh yeah.
Which it's only plural because there was multiple versions of Baal. I used to get this question from people. They'd be like, well, if it's just Nimrod, why is it in plural? Well, you got to understand, after the Tower of Babel, he was given like technically 70 different languages, 70 different religions, 70 different names. So that's 70 different gods, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. So hence the Baalim. So even though it's multiple, it's really the same entity. Quote unquote. So see here. 450 men. Interesting. They don't mention. Oh, okay. This is interesting. The prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the grove 400. This is interesting. The Masoretic leaves this out. So it seems like Semiramis had her own prophets. Aside from Nimrod, they were separate. This is interesting. Because yours, Mom, in verse 22, it just talks about the prophets of Baal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the Septuagint at the end, it says, and the prophets of the groves, 400. So, like, to explain, the groves would be the Asherah poles.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially you had 450 prophets of Nimrod plus 400 prophets of Semiramis.
Mm-hmm.
That Elijah was the only prophet of Yahuwah against like 800 prophets of the combined two deities. So yeah, you could understand why he's a little fearful. Like he's like,
Of course, and she wants to kill him.
these 800 and something people want to kill me.
Yeah, that's right.
So I wonder why the Masoretic would leave that out. That's very strange to me.
Wait, are you saying that the prophets of Ashtar were
It was like a
double
separate
the-
category.
I know, but I'm saying it was a double amount than what the prophets of Baal were?
No, it would be actually 80 less. It would be 480 for Baal, 400 for Asherah.
Okay. Yeah, see that really wouldn't make sense, like as to him being afraid, because he just killed off more prophets of Baal exist um for Asherah, so he shouldn't be afraid.
Even if Jezebel is telling you she's going to kill you.
Yeah, considering that he just killed off all the prophets of Baal, like, you know, I don't think he has a right to be running for his life. I could, if you hadn't just witnessed Yahuwah being there and all that, like, then sure, I could see you being afraid, but and I'm sure that many of us have gone through a lot of different things, and we witness Yahuwah and then, turn around and be, and act as if nothing happened, and we give into fear, we give into whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
Trying to see if I can find a picture for you guys to show what a grove is. To show you like what an Asherah grove would be. So basically, the steeples on your churches,
Yeah.
that's a grove. That's an Asherah pole. Okay, so that is basically you had like these 400 prophets of Asherah on top of the 480 of Baal. So now you got 880 people that wanted him dead, basically. And so he would have killed off most of the Baal's prophets, but he still would have had 400 people from Asherah coming after him. So yeah, that makes sense why Elijah was like scared.
I guess I cut off. I don't know. I would just really disagree, because you say 800, but he killed off the prophets of Baal. So you just literally killed off half the army, and now only the other half is against you. You killed off half the army, so why are you afraid of the other half?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think that's just giving into the flesh.
Well, probably is. I mean,
yeah.
We are in Yahuwah, but we definitely go through our tests.
And it's not the first time you see that happen in scripture. You have the guys that gave a bad report that there was these giants in the land that they could not face. And I'm sorry, but you can tell me blue in the face that it was just tall men. I'm not going to believe you.
No.
Sorry, it doesn't work with that narrative. So you had these giant monstrous beings that the spies were afraid of. They're like, oh, they were like basically shaking in their boots, telling Yahusha and Caleb, like, how are we gonna go up against these guys? So it's not foreign to Israel's history that
Mhm.
people would give into the flesh and give into fear.
Yeah, no, and I'm
And
not saying that I'm or any one of us is above it, you know. It
yeah,
happens to all of us. Um, it's just that I think that I can't condone it because he just like,
yeah,
you know, he just witnessed all the
hmm
power of Yahweh with him to wipe out half of,
yeah,
wipe out half that kingdom of, and but then turns around and acts as if he didn't witness anything and runs.
yeah. No, I can't condone it either. I just think sometimes we assume we assume we can't relate to these people because they experienced all this stuff. They experienced Yahuwah's power and all that, but we tend to underestimate how the fear of man can easily come in, and easily it doesn't take much to
No, it
to get it.
doesn't.
Because think about it, right? Like Masha's whole generation saw all the signs and everything. The first moment of tribulation, they get
That's
afraid.
right. That's right. Mhm.
So, we as human beings were prone to fear, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we have to overcome it by, you know, always reminding ourselves that he is greater with us than who is against us. So it's a constant battle in your mind and in your flesh that if you let up even for a millisecond and let that fear come in. So yeah, it's definitely not to be condoned, definitely, but I can understand how he gets afraid. He probably also feels like he's getting weary in his flesh, like, oh my goodness, I just had to kill this 400 something guys, so now his flesh is weary and he's tired, and he's like, man, now I gotta kill these 400 other people. And he's probably, yeah, Elijah was definitely not perfect. He had his
Yeah.
faults. He it seems like he struggled with fear a lot because he was always, saying to you, well, you might as well take my life if you're gonna have me, dealing with these people. And so he was always in that a very like afflicted state. And he would always like feel like that his life was in peril. So sometimes we forget that these prophets were men and they were mortal and they were prone to error. um you know so I think sometimes we forget about that. Even Masha had
Yeah.
similar issues that I have, which is anger problems. And after some point, Masha had to let them have it and yell at them for being stiff necked. So there's sometimes we forget that the prophets, yeah, they were very righteous men, but they all had the same temptations we had. They all had the same struggles. So yeah. But if I can find a better picture of a grove for people watching the study here, I'll share it. I'm just not finding a really good picture here to show you guys what it is. But anyway, but you're going to see that in certain versions of the scriptures. The Septuagint rarely ever uses the term Ashropole. It will just say grove like every single time. So just to let you know, that's what it is. It seems like the groves were also like attached to Wicca worship and like, worship trees and, Unitarianism and all that. Go ahead, brother.
Even though it doesn't mention this, I can only imagine that um, Yashral has just been worshiping Baal, and then you have the prophets of Baal being wiped out. You have this whole scenario with the two altars play out, and you have Yashral actually now standing up in righteousness and going forth and wiping out the priests of Baal. and in a sense, you almost see this, we see this kind of theme within the Book of Judges, where Yashraal is serving, serving other mighty ones, and then you have a judge stand up and begin to draw the people back into righteousness. And you have these people rallying around the judge. But in this case, you have Eliyahu running, and so then it never mentions it. But I mean, what happens to the people when they see the person that they just rallied around that had fire rain down from Shamim, all of a sudden takes off? We see what happens in the book of Exodus, when you have all these people rallied around Masha, but then they think that he disappeared and wasn't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can imagine like what the people's state of mind must have been when they realized, hey, like Eliyahu just ran away. What do we do now?
Mhm.
Yeah. And this shows you too, like people will. I love this chapter to show to people that like are like under this like hippie understanding of you can't make fun of anyone, you can't mock anyone. It's not okay to mock. It's sinful to mock. He was doing this is Elijah right here mocking
Mhm.
prophets of Baal, making fun of them. He's even
Yeah.
saying he's like, "Oh, where's your God now? Oh, he must be relieving himself.
Mhm.
He must be in the restroom. He must be taking a nap." He's making fun of them. So I think we tend to the type of church upbringing we're given is like, oh my goodness, it's a sin to make fun of someone. You know,
That must be nice.
you know.
The ESV that translated it as he's relieving himself.
SB, yeah. He is
They're
and
the only
Elisha
ones.
mocked them, saying, "Cry aloud, for he is a god." Lowercase g there. I like that. Either he is musing or he is relieving himself,
Mhm.
or he is on a journey, maybe, or perhaps he's asleep, must be awakened.
Yeah, they're
And
the only translation that gets that right.
yeah, Deuteronomy 32:37, they also cite from it, which is interesting. So I think 32:37, that's where Yahuwah talks about don't let there be an alien god among you. It's probably why he has that there. They have that there. Or it talks about, I think that's part of the Song of Moses where Masha, where they talk about there was no alien mighty one among them. Let me see here. Deuteronomy 32 would be a really good song to learn, by the way. Really, really cool song. Let me see, 32:27. Were it not for the wrath of the enemy, lest they should live long, lest their enemies should combine against them, lest they should say, our own high arm and not Yahuwah has done all these things. Interesting. That's an interesting reference to have. Oh, 37. My bad, not 27. Oh, and Yahuwah said, where are their gods on whom they trusted? Yeah. So we see that this has happened throughout Israel's whole history. They want to trust on Baal. I mean, it got so bad that the Freemasons still do this to this day. You know, if you don't believe me, check it for yourself. They offer corn to Baal. They do like sacrifices of corn to Baal. And there's an actual verse in Hosea that says, Yahuwah saying of Israel, they did not know that I gave them the corn and the wine. So that was something that the Israelites of old were doing. They were giving wine and corn to Baal, and now the Freemasons do it. So anyway, I just think that's interesting. So nothing new under the sun. Let's see, no one paid attention. That's interesting. This seems to be lacking in the Septuagint here. he repaired the altar of Yahuwah which had been torn down. So that's kind of interesting. That's verse 30 there. Here, I need to write this down. So, and First Kings, what is this? 1830. LXX Lex. He repaired the altar. Huh. So verse 31 here. Seems like it's going back to the original time Yahuwah renames Jacob. Then you got verse 32 here. Name of the altar. And I think that's about it. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I'm just seeing if there's any other big differences before we go to chapter 19 here. And here's a little hint that Yahoo's supposed to be the suffix here. This is an interesting thing left in the Septuagint when they translated to Greek. Elijah has you at the end. So if you literally put Yahuwah's prefix in there, you have Eli Yahu. So that's just an interesting thing in the Greek there. So for some reason, they don't have a Yah sound in the Greek. I don't know what it is. Or they just choose to take the Yah out. I don't know why. Mount Carmel. 7 times. And I guess that's it for chapter 18. So now we're at 19. All right, let's see here. How many verses we got here? This is kind of a shorter one here. Since we got a decent amount of people here today, I want to make sure there's enough readers here. So think for today, I might give my part to someone else. Let's see here. Brother Dennis, would you like to read chapter 19? If not, I can pick someone else.
Oh, you
Yeah.
done mute.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Chapter
Well, maybe
19.
Yep.
Okay. And when Ahab reported to Isabel all that Eliyahu had done, also how he slew all the prophets with the sword, Isabel sent a messenger to Eliyahu, saying, "So let the mighty ones do to me, and more so, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time." And he feared and rose up and ran for his life, and went to Bathsheba, which belongs to Yehuda, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a broom tree, and prayed that he might die, and said, "It is enough. Now, Yahuwah, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." And he lay and slept under a broom tree, and see, a messenger touched him and said to him, "Rise, eat." And he looked and saw by his head a cake baked on coals and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and turned and lay down. And the messenger of Yahuwah came back the second time and touched him and said, "Rise, eat, for a journey is too much for you." And he rose up and ate and drank and went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights as far as Horeb, the mountain of Alim. And there he went into a cave and spent the night there. And see, the word of Yahuwah came to him and said to him, "What are you doing here, O Yahu?" He said, "I have been very jealous for Yahuwah, Alim of hosts, for the children of Yisrael have forsaken your covenant. They have thrown down your altars, and they have slain your prophets with the sword. And I am left alone, and they seek my life to take it." And he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before Yahuwah." And see, Yahuwah passed by, and a great and strong wind tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahuwah. Yahuwah was not in the wind, and after the wind, an earthquake. Yahuwah was not in the earthquake, and after the earthquake, a fire. Yahuwah was not in the fire, and after the fire is a still small voice. And it came to be, when Eliyahu heard it, that he wrapped his face in his robes, went out, and stood at the cave opening. And see, a voice came to him and said, "What are you doing here, Eliyahu?" And he said, "I have been very jealous for Yahuwah, Elohim of hosts, for the children of Yisrael have forsaken your covenant. They have thrown down your altars, and they have slain your prophets with the sword. And I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it." And Yahuwah said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and you shall go in and anoint Hazael as sovereign over Aram, and anoint Yehu, son of Nimshi, as sovereign over Yisrael, and anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, of Abel Meholah, as prophet in your place. And it shall be that whoever escapes the sword of Hazael, Jehu does kill, and whoever escapes from the sword of Jehu, Elisha does kill. And I shall leave 7,000 in Yisrael, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him." And he went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and he was with the 12. And Eliyahu passed by him and threw his robe on him. And he left the oxen and ran after Eliyahu and said, "Please let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I follow you." And he said to him, "Go, turn back, for what have I done to you?" And he turned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slaughtered them and cooked their flesh using the implements of the oxen and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he rose up and followed Eliyahu and became his servant. Ooh. Yeah, I guess if you're the only prophet left and they're going to go after you and kill you, it might make you think about it. But
Yeah.
Yahoo says to do it, you do it.
Yeah, you better not hesitate on it.
That's it, yeah.
I think delayed obedience is disobedience.
Yeah, it can be.
I think this chapter is a tube oneness chapter. You have voice
Yeah.
coming Eliyahu right after it says, but Yahweh was not in the fire, and after the fire, the voice of a gentle breeze. So we know that it's Yahweh that he's speaking. 'Cause it's, I shall, you shall go forth tomorrow and shall stand before Yahweh in the mount, before Yahweh will pass by. So, voice of Yahweh, but we know that the voice of Yahweh is the same as the word of Yahweh. Is the word of Yahweh by the voice of Yahweh. So the voice of Yahweh is the word. So we literally Yahusha here. However, Yahusha is being called Yahweh. It says Yahweh passed by. You know, then Yahweh being called the voice of Yahweh, which is the word of Yahweh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yep.
It would be interesting if they had a Targum version of First Kings. I wonder if it would paraphrase that, not necessarily paraphrase, but translate it here that the word of Yahweh in here.
Possibly where it has Yahuwah Sabaoth is where they would have the word of Yahuwah. Which there's a couple of times. I think there's even once in this chapter that you have Yahuwah of armies, Yahuwah Sabaoth mentioned here. Let me see here. Verse 14. Yeah, so it says here, I have been very zealous for Yahuwah of armies, for the people of Israel. So you have Yahusha mentioned here with Yahuwah of armies. And he's being called. And what's kind of funny, right? Where else do we see in the New Testament, I've been zealous? Paul. And who's he zealous for? So just to prove to people, because people might be saying, how do you know Yahuwah of armies is Yahusha? Go to Romans 11, verse 3. And let's go to Romans 11, verse 3 here. And okay, that's something different here. Where does it tell me? I'm surprised they don't have it in the footnotes here. Ephesians 5, I think it might be actually, where it talks about I'm zealous for Messiah with a full zealousness. Let me see here. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Oh, go ahead, brother Yahusha. I am jealous for Messiah. Okay, that must be old hand. Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted. I was wondering more if you thought that they would have word of Yahweh in the place where it has the voice of Yahweh.
Yeah, it would be a little bit more paraphrased. It would be like the voice of your word, usually is how they would paraphrase it. So it would be like for example, in Genesis, I think trying to remember here, Genesis 3 or 4, it would say, how it talks about Yahuwah Elohim walked in the cool of the day. It would say in the Jerusalem Targum, it would say, I heard the voice of your word, or I heard the word of Yahuwah Elohim was walking in the cool of the day. So the word would be there, but it would be part of something else. It would be the voice of your word. It would be showing that the word is a person, basically. That it's not just utterance, it's a person. So let me see if I can pull that up real quick, just to, since we're on this topic anyway. Let me go on to my Kindle real quick. It'll be easy to find on the Kindle app, since I have them all three on my Kindle. Come on, hurry up, Kindle app. Come on. There we go. So we go over here, shared screen, just to give you guys a taste of what we're talking about here. So I got my own Kalos. Where are you? Jerusalem. There we go. Yeah. I'll worry about flashcards later. Worry about that later. So here's a perfect example right here. Is Exodus 21, verse 1. The word of Yahuwah spoke all the excellency of these words, saying, where in the regular versions of Exodus 20 just says Yahuwah. So they would paraphrase Yahuwah as the word of Yahuwah there. So let's go to, like, just to show you what I was talking about with Genesis. Okay, let's go down to Tovros. Okay. There's a whole introduction there to what a Targum is. So let's see here. All right, so Genesis, I think the first time you're going to see it is 127, obviously. Instead of Elohim, they have the word of Yahuwah created man in his likeness. Okay. Okay. Here we go. So this is Genesis 3:9 in the Jerusalem one. Walking in the garden in the strength of the day, and the word of Yahuwah Elohim called to Adam and said to him, behold, the world which I have created is revealed before me. And how do you think that in the place in the midst whereof you are is not revealed before me? Where is the commandment that I taught you? So basically they paraphrase where are you, Adam, to that. So to understand that where are you is in a spiritual sense. It's not that Yahuwah doesn't see him in the garden. It's more of an idiom. It's more of like, you're far from me because you're sin type of thing. So, but that's a perfect example of the Targum would have the word of Yahuwah there. Let's see here, Genesis 3:24, the word of Yahuwah Elohim. Okay. Cain. Let's see here. Yeah. The word of Yahuwah said, okay. So yeah, you get the point. Here we go. Here's a perfect example. There was relentance before Yahuwah in his word that he had made man upon the earth. So you have Yahuwah in his word being a person. So that's just a perfect example there. So yeah, if we ever see like the Ruach being mentioned, like in First Kings, if there was a Targum of it, I'm pretty sure there is. Because isn't First Kings like part of the prophets? Would that be
I
considered?
think so.
Yeah,
I
so
think so,
there
yeah.
there is a Targum of the prophets, from what I remember. There might be a First Kings Targum, because there's a Targum of the prophets. But here's a perfect example of what I was talking about. Genesis 11, verse 1, the word of him who spake, and the world was. So it's actually telling you the word created the world. The word of him who spake, and the world was at the beginning. So that's Genesis 11:1 in the Jerusalem Targum. So there's many commentaries within the Targums that even show this concept of the oneness. This was something that was like really prevalent in their culture. And then it also shows you that it hints around that Yahusha is the testimony of prophecy. That wasn't something John like created of himself. That the testimony of Yahusha is the spirit of prophecy. We see that in the Targums a lot. Sometimes it will say there was the word of prophecy from Yahuwah. That's how it will phrase it. Yeah, so here's another example, Genesis 15:1. My word shall be your reward.
Mhm.
and your shield, protector in this world. So I mean, it's like it's
Yeah.
it's almost everywhere in the Targums. Trying to see if there's any other examples I could give you here. Yeah, there's a lot of them. This is when Abraham is given, he meets Yahusha. This would be one of the cases they believe he met Yahusha when the three men, Yahuwah and the two messengers, came to meet Abraham. That's when he saw Yahusha's day, quote unquote, because it says that the word of Yahuwah was revealed to him in the valley of the vision. So interesting enough, this commentary is telling you it's a vision that he saw this. It was kind of like a transfiguration thing. And he sat in the door of the tabernacle, comforting himself from the circumcision, the fervor, strain of the day. So supposedly this would allude to that this is right after he got circumcised, which I would have to check if that's scriptural or not, if that's even correct or not. But anyway, so there's like here we go. Yahuwah with his word said, with his word. So I mean, there's tons of oneness stuff in here. I have a lot of them highlighted. Look at this right here, Genesis 19. The word of Yahuwah himself had made to descend upon the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. Very interesting, because in the other versions of this verse, it's kind of I don't like to use the word duality, but it's kind of it's almost like you have two Yahuwahs. The Targums, what they did, they turned it completely singular in this verse. The word of Yahuwah himself descended on Sodom. So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, just to add Brother Yahusha's point there, like if there's a First Kings Targum, yeah, there would be a lot of the word of Yahuwah would be used a couple of times in this chapter, definitely. So I'm trying to see where the verse you were alluding to with the wind thing. Let's see here where it talks about a wind blowing, or where's that, Mom, in 1 Kings 19 where it talks about the spirit was blowing?
Okay.
12 to 13.
Okay, 12 to 13. So after the earthquake of fire, but Yahuwah was not in the fire. After the fire, the sound of a low whisper. See, what's interesting here is that the LXX would be pointing to more of a oneness here, because it says the voice of a gentle breeze. So you have Yahuwah's voice in the fire. And we could actually go to a couple of scriptures here real quick, just show you what I'm talking about. There's one verse, I think, from Deuteronomy. See here, voice of Elohim in the fire. And this gets really... Oh, go ahead.
In this one, it's not in the fire. It's after the fire.
Oh, okay.
It says Yahuwah was not in the fire.
Huh. Yeah, I was just saying that it says, though, that there was a voice there. Yahuwah was not in the fire, and after the fire, a small voice. Okay. So that's a different concept, but Deuteronomy 4:33 was where I was going to go to. But anyway, yeah, so the still voice would definitely refer to the Ruach HaKodesh, which obviously Yahusha is the Ruach, Yahuwah is the Ruach, so that's obviously what that's referring to. It's interesting that the word voice, I wonder if that's just a translation issue where they say whisper instead of voice. Kind of interesting. Deuteronomy 4:12 is listed. Job 4:16. And actually, you know how to prove this, that this is Yahusha, the voice? The book of Job in the Septuagint, when you go to the last couple chapters of the book of Job, I think, what is it, chapter 39, Mom, where he reveals himself to Job?
Mhm.
Or maybe that's 41.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Where he says, I've only heard about you, I've never seen you before. Oh, go ahead, Brother Yahusha.
Yeah, I think in the it would be a still small voice is there, so it seems the unless the CDV is just choosing to translate it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's weird. Whisper is just, I don't know, a weird way. I guess they're trying to do it because they understand Yahuwah's voice as like a soft whisper, so I guess that's why they're translating it that way. Um Let me see here. Where is it in Job that it talks about that? Let me see here. Huh. That's strange. Could have swore it was in chapter 41. Maybe it's in 40. Um, Let me try 38. Let's see here. I could also just search it here. Let me see here. I forget in Job whether it would be a wind.
I think so.
Yeah.
Check him in a wind. 40 swear.
38.
Oh, okay. It's 40.
Yeah. Elihu had ceased from speaking. Yahuwah spoke to Ayub through the whirlwind and clouds, saying, so it's right here in 38. Huh.
You know, with him coming to Job in a whirlwind and him coming to Eliyahu in a gentle breeze, his reaction to Eliyahu is he doesn't seem angry. You know, he really reacts very gentle to Eliyahu. Where in Job's case, like he's a little bit perturbed, not only with especially with the other three. So it kind of makes sense that with Eliyahu he appears in this gentle breeze, and with he appears as this fierce whirlwind.
What's interesting too in Job 42:5, after Yahusha comes to him in this form, he says, I have heard the report of you by ear before, but now my eye has seen you. And people always ask me, like, isn't that a contradiction? No eye has seen Yahuwah. And the only way to reconcile that is that he saw Yahusha. That's
Right.
only way to reconcile that, because it does say in John, no eye has seen the Father. So, and he's literally saying that he's seen Yahuwah there in Job 42:5. Yeah. So that's interesting. But yeah. So, and I mean, there's all types of hints that Yahusha is the same person as the Spirit, that Yahusha is the Spirit. The Spirit's not a separate entity. when you go to the Comforter chapter
Mhm.
in John, he says, you know, I'm not leaving you as orphans. I come back
That's
to you.
right.
Then he says, the Father's going to send the Comforter in my name, my name. So there's all these hints in John, Matthew, and Mark, and Luke that he's the Comforter himself. So a lot of people miss that, but he's actually telling them that he's the Comforter in like a third person way. Just like he refers to himself as the Son of Man, the Son of Man. Same type of thing. So, but anyway. But yeah. Chapter 20, we're going to need like at least 2 different readers.
Yeah.
At least. So let me just see if there's anything else here from this chapter. We have Malak Yahuwah here. Again, Yahusha. So there's 2 different titles here. This is kind of interesting. You have like one person, right, that's obviously talking to him the whole time. It goes back and forth between Malak Yahuwah and Yahuwah of armies as the same person. So that's kind of interesting to me. Let's see here. And then he even has here, verse 9, the word of Yahuwah came to him, the word as a person. So that's where you're going to start seeing a lot of the oneness stuff is in that. But anyway, for those that want to know about verse 10 and where I was citing from Paul's letters, this oneness connection here, it's 2 Corinthians 11:2, where Paul uses the same phrase here. I am zealous with a yali zealousness. So he says here, for I am zealous over you with the zealousness of Elua. For I have betrothed you as a pure virgin to one man to present to the Messiah. Now, right here, right, Elijah is saying that he's zealous for this people, for Yahuwah. So you kind of see a oneness there between 1 Kings 19:10 and 2 Corinthians 11:2. So here we go again. I've been zealous on behalf of Yahuwah Elua of armies. So again, okay, let's shoot to death. Call of Elisha. It's cloak upon him. Okay. No.
We could cast lots to see who has to read next.
No, I'm not gonna do that to anyone, man. That would be horrible to. Well, actually, it's not that bad. I thought it was longer.
It's not as bad as I had originally thought. No,
Okay,
it's
so
not
43 is not bad. Okay, so what I think we could do is have Brother Yahusha read like the first like 20 verses, and then Mom, if you want to just finish us
Oh,
off.
sure.
All right.
You said the first 20?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see here.
And the son of Hadad gathered all his forces and went up and besieged Samaria, he and 32 kings with him, and all horses and chariots. And they went up and besieged Samaria and fought against it. And he sent into the city to Ahab, king of Yashraal, and said to him, thus says the son of Hadad, your silver and your gold are mine, and your wives and your children are mine.
And the king of Yashral answered and said, as you have said, my master, O king, I am yours and all mine as well. And the messengers came again and said, thus says the son of Hadad, I sent to you saying, you shall give me your silver and your gold and your wives and your children. For at this time tomorrow I will send my servants to you, and they shall search your house and the houses of your servants. And it shall be that all the desirable objects of their eyes on which they shall slay their hands, they shall take. And the king of Yashral called all the elders of the land and said, take notice now and consider that this man seeks mischief, for he has sent to me concerning my wives and concerning my sons and concerning my daughters. I have not kept back from him my silver and my gold. And the elders and all the people said to him, hearken not and consent not. And he said to the messengers of the son of Hadad, say to your master, all things that you have sent to your servant about at first I will do, but this thing I shall not be able to do. And the men departed and carried back the answer to him. And the son of Hadad sent to him, saying, so do Aluah to me, and more also, if the dust of Samaria shall suffice for foxes to all the people, even my infantry. And the king of Yashral answered and said, let it be sufficient. Let not the humpbacked boast as he that is upright. And it came to pass, when he returned him his answer, he and all the kings with him were drinking in tents. And he said to his servants, form a trench. And they made a trench against the city. And behold, a prophet came to Ahab, king of Yashral, and he said, thus says Yahweh, have you seen this great multitude? Behold, I give it this day into your hands, and you shall know that Achaya Yahweh. This, I think this is an instance of, well, I'll come back to that, sorry. And Ahab said, by whom? And he said, thus says Yahweh, by the young men of the heads of the districts. And Ahab said, who shall begin the battle? And he said, you. And Ahab numbered the young men, the heads of the districts, and they were 230. And afterwards he numbered the people, every man fit for war, 7,000. And he went forth at noon, and the son of Hadad was drinking and getting drunk in Sukkot, he and the kings, even 32 kings, his allies. And the young men, the heads of the districts, went forth first, and they sent and reported to the king of Syria, saying, there are men come forth out of Samaria. And he said to them, if they come forth peaceably, take them alive. And if they come forth to war, take them alive. And let not the young men, the heads of the districts, go forth to the city. And the force that was behind them killed each one the man next to him. And each one a second time killed the man next to him. And Syria fled, and Yashral pursued them. And the son of Hadad, the king of Syria, escaped on the horse of a horseman. Okay. That's to 20.
The king of Yashral advanced and overpowered the horses and chariots and inflicted heavy losses on the Arameans. Afterward, the prophet came to the king of Yashral and said, strengthen your position and see what must be done, because next spring the king of Aram will attack you again. Meanwhile, the officials of the king of Aram advised him, their mighty ones are mighty ones of the hills. That is why they were too strong for us. But if we fight them on the plains, surely we will be stronger than they. Do this, remove all the kings from their commands and replace them with other officers. You must also raise an army like the one you lost, horse for horse, chariot for chariot, so we can fight Yashrael on the plains. Then surely we will be stronger than they. He agreed with them and acted accordingly. The next spring, Ben-Hadad mustered the Arameans and went up to Aphek to fight against Yashrael. When the Yashraelites were also mustered and given provisions, they marched out to meet them. The Yashraelites camped opposite them like two small flocks of goats, while the Arameans covered the countryside. The man of Yahuwah came up and told the king of Yashrael, this is what Yahuwah says. Because the Arameans think that Yahuwah is a mighty one of the hills and not a mighty one of the valleys, I will deliver this vast army into your hands, and you will know that I am Yahuwah. For 7 days they camped opposite each other, and on the seventh day the battle was joined. The children of Israel inflicted 100,000 casualties on the Arameans, foot soldiers, in one day. The rest of them escaped to the city of Aphek, where the wall collapsed on 27,000 of them. And Ben-Hadad fled to the city and hid in an inner room. His officials said to him, "Look, we have heard that the kings of the house of Yashrael are merciful. Let us go to the king of Yashrael with sackcloth around our waists and ropes around our heads. Perhaps he will spare your life." Wearing sackcloth around their waists and ropes around their heads, they went to the king of Yashrael and said, "Your servant Ben-Hadad says, 'Please let me live.'" The king answered, "Is he still alive? He is my brother." The men took this as a good sign and were quick to pick up his word. "Yes, your brother Ben-Hadad," they said. "Go and get him." The king said, when Ben-Hadad came out, Ahab had him come up into his chariot. "I will return the cities my father took from your father." Ben-Hadad offered, "You may set up your own market areas in Damascus, as my father did in Samaria." Ahab said, "On the basis of a treaty, I will set you free." So he made a treaty with him and let him go. By the word of Yahuwah, one of the sons of the prophets said to his companion, "Strike me with your weapon," but the man refused. So the prophet said, "Because you have not obeyed Yahuwah, as soon as you leave me, a lion will kill you." And after the man went away, a lion found him and killed him. The prophet found another man and said, "Strike me, please." So the man struck him and wounded him. Then the prophet went and stood by the road, waiting for the king. He disguised himself with his headband down over his eyes. As the king passed by, the prophet called out to him, "Your servant went into the thick of the battle, and someone came to me with a captive and said, 'Guard this man. If he is missing, it will be your life for his life, or you must pay a talent of silver.' While your servant was busy here and there, the man disappeared. That is your sentence," the king of Yashrael said. "You have pronounced it yourself." Then the prophet quickly removed the headband from his eyes, and the king of Yashrael recognized him as one of the prophets. He said to the king, "This is what Yahuwah says. You have set free a man I had determined should die. Therefore, it is your life for his life, your people for his people." Sullen and angry, the king of Yashrael went to his palace in Samaria.
This is strange.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I can see him, obviously he's not giving victory over Samaria for the sake of Ahab, but I would imagine after you have a lot of people turning back to Yahuwah during the whole Elijah on the mountain event, you still have a lot of these people in the city that are now serving Yahweh again. And so I can see him holding off this army of Samaria, not for the sake of Ahab obviously, but for the sake of the righteous within the city.
Hmm. Hmm. And what's also interesting is the very last verse here. The Masoretic says that Hezekiah was, the Masoretic would say he was angry. The Septuagint says he was fainted or fainting or disconfounded. So it's a very different narrative versus him being angry, versus him actually being scared and being afraid. So I wonder which one actually fits with the narrative here. Because is Hezekiah basically on the run here? Is he like basically like he's getting defeated? Like, is that what's going on?
It's Ahab.
Okay. Ahab. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the header says, oh,
Yeah.
Ahab. Okay. That's right. So Ahab, I guess it would make more sense what, for him to be confounded or for him to be angry?
I can see him just considering the person that he is. Um,
Mhm.
although I see what you're saying, it does say it in the Septuagint. But to the Mezerites, just I can see him being angry, just for the type of person that he was. You know, you have him not being able to get the what was it, the garden that he wanted, and then he ended up killing the person, or Jezebel ended up killing the person. But you know, when he couldn't get what he wanted, you know, he went home and he sulked about it. So I don't see him, you know, him being angry.
Interesting that they were brothers.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I guess it could be a little bit of both, because he's like the perfect example of what happens when you let your, and I know a lot of people are going to hate me saying this, but let your woman run you.
No, it's true.
Ahab is the perfect example. He's
True.
what the modern day society would call a beta male.
That's right.
He would let a woman run on him, control him. So I could see kind of a little mixture of both, with the argument of angry versus fearful or fainting. I think if he's really not an alpha male, he's going to be, he's going to be fearful when any little affliction comes to him. He's going to be fearful. That's part of, he's cowardly. He's a cowardly guy. So I could see kind of both, where he would be angry or cowardly. But yeah, it's just an interesting difference there. Just interesting. Why does there need to be a different narrative there? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Ahab is an example to us guys what not to be, especially when we're getting married. That is a perfect example of what not to do. And I hate to say it, Solomon kind of got like that in his old age too. He kind of became a beta a little bit in his old age, letting his wives control him, letting his wives tempt him into idol worship. So that's what happens. So yeah. So there's always examples like that you can take from and learn from. So, but yeah, I think that's why a lot of these extra biblical books are anti-female. I think is what they took that concept and kind of ran with it. And like there were some men that just, whoever made these books like Ecclesiasticus and some of these apocryphal books, they were probably men that hated women. Because they took it to an extreme where they started blaming Eve for the fall and this and that. And so it's like there is this concept in scripture that's scriptural that, the only thing that can make a good man fall is a bad wife. There is a concept of that, So there is a concept of that in scripture and scriptural, but to take it to extreme and to say women are the cause of the whole cause of evil in general is kind of ridiculous.
Mhm.
But I can see like Israelite men writing stuff like Sirach, like just kind of being woman hating and having an agenda against women and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So almost like the opposite of feminism, like a male version of feminism against women, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you could say misogyny, but it would go even further than misogyny, something like that, like anti-women. So, but anyway, but yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. We obviously see Samaria has had some issues in the past couple of chapters. The Northern House is really they've kind of been screwed up ever since Jeroboam came around.
Yeah, he was bad news.
So
Bad news.
it's getting worse and worse and worse. And mind you, this is where we get the Samaritans of the New Testament from. So this is kind of
Mhm.
the beginning of the Samaritans and the beginning of the, you know, mentality of I want to worship Baal and Yahuwah at the same time,
Mhm.
because that's exactly what happens with the Samaritans. They want to hold on to their little customs, and then they want to serve Yahusha at the same time. And that's why Yahusha took his issue with the woman that at the well, even though he definitely granted her, you know, he realized she had faith, but at the same time, he did rebuke her a little bit.
Mhm.
Said he's like, salvation is of us. You guys don't know what you worship. You guys are like all over. Basically, in so many words, he's saying you guys are all over the place. You want to worship my father. You want to worship Baal. You don't know who you're worshiping. So when you look at this is kind of like the prequel to that in John chapter 8. So this is kind of what causes that, is that you had the Northern House was like, as bad as Judah was, the Northern House with idolatry was like 10 times worse. And this is why Yahuwah had to divorce the Northern House. They just got so bad.
Now, this that we're reading today is before the Assyrian captivity, right? We haven't come to that yet. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Assyrian captivity happens after the divorce. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
you're not going to get
Right,
full on.
Losing track.
Yeah, you're not going to get full on Syrian captivity until like the book of Jeremiah, Ezekiel.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Trying to think what other books. You might get a little bit in Second Chronicles, I think.
Right. I think
like in
right.
the later chapters, like 30 to 36, you're going to get a lot of that.
Yeah.
Or at least a recap of what happened, where it talks about the captivity that came back and all that. Yeah, but they're not even in captivity yet. They're still in the land, and this is all happening. So the divorce doesn't happen until Jeremiah 4 officially. Hosea talks a little bit about it, a little bit about the divorce. So I don't think you really get the divorce until like 700 BC.
Oh, okay.
So this might be about 150 years before the divorce. So yeah.
That's my new name for you.
Forrest Gump. Oh man. Let me see here. So other than that, I can't think of anything else. The heck is going on?
Okay.
Someone is messaging me or something. What the heck? Anyway, that's the end of our study for today, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, got something out of it. Hopefully, it was edifying to those that were watching and listening in. So Yahuwah willing, we're going to be back next Shabbat evening. I really got to seek Yahuwah and Yahusha about what study he wants me to do next. So I'm thinking kind of leaning towards us continuing the Psalm study we started last night, Yahusha willing. But there's a couple ideas I have. There's a couple of studies I really want to get going for this fellowship, with the couple of exposés we got to finish up. We got to finish up the Jubilees one, Yahuwah willing, at some point. We got to finish. We got to do the second book of Adam and Eve. We're going to expose that, Yahuwah willing, at some point in the future. And there's a couple ideas me and Brother Yahusha have. I know Brother Yahusha said he wanted to do exposing Gnosticism, exposing Kabbalism. So those are two that are really high on the priority list as well. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha.
Actually, I'll wait until we get off.
Okay. Yeah, we're about to get off right now. So Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters out there in Yahuwah Almighty Yahushua Messiah. Have a great rest of Yahuwah's Sabbath, Yahusha's Shabbat. Shalom, everyone. Have a great week.